Evening,
Hi,
everyone.
everyone. Hi, everyone, and welcome to a day in the life of an associate. I am Valentina Ortega. I will be your moderator today, and I am more than happy to introduce our president, Daniel Mateo. And he will have a few words for us before we get started with our panelists, which is Frank Francis, Valerie Salcido, and Yaylee Wu.
Dan, you just got introduced.
I heard. Thank you, Valentina. I appreciate the opportunity to just welcome everyone. It's been a long time since I've been an associate, so I'm very interested in this panel to see how things have changed. But from a partner perspective, I do think that this is certainly important for young and more seasoned. I think generational differences, something that we're really struggling with at law firms. And so talking through what a day in the life of an associate is, the interactions with partners, I'll sort of close my ears to that part. But how to manage up and how you manage your time, and most importantly, how you manage your wellness while you're trying to succeed are all super important. So I'm very interested in hearing all of our panelists. And I hope you have a great webinar.
Thank you, Dan. All right, so I just gave a quick brief introduction of who our panelists are, but I'm going to let them tell you more about them. So I will let Frank take it from here.
Hello, everyone. Greetings from a very snowy New York City. I'm here in my apartment here in Brooklyn, New York. I am Frank. I am originally from Western Michigan, but I've been in New York for quite some time. I'm at a small plaintiff side workers' compensation firm in Brooklyn as well. I'm a senior associate, which if anyone has questions about what that means, happy to answer that. And I've been in that position about 5 years now. And I went to Brooklyn Law School, Georgetown undergrad, with a brief stint at Johns Hopkins for a master's degree. So that's my background.
Thank you, Frank. Valerie, tell us more about yourself.
Hey, everybody. My name is Valerie Salcido. I am born and raised in Texas, currently practicing in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm an immigration associate at Seyfarth Shaw. And if you know anything about immigration, it is national law. It is federal law. So I did not have to take another bar exam. Super excited about that. I'm a first generation attorney. I'm trying to figure it all out as I go. And I will say that the first few years of being an associate are the most determinative of how your trajectory can go or how it can hurt you if you don't take the right steps. So just a little bit about me. I'm also heavily involved in the Hispanic National Bar Association. You may see me around with the Young Lawyer Division. I'm also chairing the Special Committee for Legal Professionals. So any legal staff that you may have that might be interested in HNBA, I'm here for that. And I also am working under Jimmy Aliaga for Deputy VP of Regions.
Thank you for sharing, Valerie. Yaylee, tell us more about yourself.
Sure, thank you. Hi, my name is Yaylee. I am originally from Korea, I guess. I was born in Korea and I came to the US when I was 5. So I'm Korean American, and I've been in New Jersey basically all my life, even now. But I work in New York City. I'm at a firm called Casowitz Benson Torres. I'm an employment litigation associate. And I've been with the firm about 3 years now, but I'm a 6th-year associate now. So I guess you could call it a senior, mid-level senior associate, which I'm still learning what that means for my sake. But yeah, I mean, I've been doing employment law my whole career, and I love it. I mean, it's easy to sort of navigate between states as well because it largely uses federal law. And I love, counseling clients and employers mostly on how to, comply with employment laws, as well as day-to-day employee relations issues. So I've been really enjoying that. And I look forward to today's panel. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here and spending and sharing your wisdom with us this evening. So we have a real past experience, right? So we want to learn, what have you learned about yourself so far? In the positions that you are in, what have you learned? What's that one nugget of wisdom that you're like, this is what I'm taking at the level that I'm at right now? Who wants to take it?
I'll jump in real quick.
Yeah.
Honestly, the number one thing I've learned, we're advocates. We're advocates for others, but most importantly, we're advocates for ourselves. And so that means really assessing, the law firm culture. It's assessing the teams that you're on, the management styles that you're working under, and advocating for yourself for what you need. Not all learning styles are the same. Not all work production is the same. And I've really, I started out with an amazing job at a great law firm, and everything checked all the boxes, except they were not helping me flourish as an attorney. And so I learned really early on in my career that I had to advocate for myself to be able to get the knowledge that I wanted and go to the places that I wanted to go to in terms of my career. So it's gotten a lot easier, especially transferring law firms, interning, and interviewing at different places. It's easier to advocate for yourself in the interview for me because, I'm very direct about what I want and what I hope to gain out of a firm and what I can bring to the firm. So I think overall advocating for yourself is what I've learned most about myself.
You're on mute.
What's I can't figure out mute yet after so many years. Valerie, before we what is one tip that you have taken that has helped advocate for yourself? What's one thing that you practice all the time that has helped with your advocacy?
I think it's really important to always learn and adapt to the situations and structures that you're in. And that can be a social situation, it can be a professional one. And I think the more that you're able to kind of assess what's going on quickly, adapt to what's happening, and knowing yourself is also the most important, or else you won't know what to advocate for, knowing what your values are. I left some people behind at the firm because their main value was to make the most money, and it was a very high paying job. My main value was to grow as an attorney because it was in my first few years of being an attorney. So knowing that about myself made it really easy to advocate for myself and make the moves that I needed to make.
Thank you for sharing that. Frank, what can you tell us about the nugget of wisdom that you are?
You can do this. If you made it this far and you made it to this panel, you are not going to fail. I'm assuming most of you listening are in school or you are in your first couple of years out in practice. You made it through undergrad. That's not easy. You made it through the interview process, or you made it through the law school process. It's not easy. You're going to walk into the law firm world, whether it's big, medium, or small. It's challenging. It is not insurmountable, and you can do this as well. And that's what I learned about myself. That's learned about everyone I came up with. Not everyone did as well as others, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. And you all have to kind of figure out what you want out of this. That's kind of always the nugget of wisdom I'm asked to give. And it's really what you're trying to figure out is what you want to be as an attorney, as an adult, as a practitioner, as a human being. What kind of law you want to practice, how many hours you're willing to give to it, how much time you have to give to it, what your circumstances are. And as you do this more and more, you're going to realize what that's going to be, and that's going to change throughout the years. So what I've learned is to strike that balance between what you want, what you're willing to give, but it's not impossible, and you're going to figure out what you want, and it's going to be great.
Going to be great. That's what we're going to take.
Well, it's going to be crazy, but it's also going to be great.
We will take it. And thanks, Dan, for jumping in. And thanks, Frank, for sharing that. We're going to write that in. Lee, what can you tell us about your nugget of wisdom?
Sure. If I had to stick to one nugget, I think a big takeaway that I'm still learning now as a senior associate is that you really have control over your life and your career. As an associate, you have to answer to a lot of people, right? You have to manage up and, answer to partners. You have to manage down and not answer to, but you have to manage paralegal staff. And then there's opposing counsel and outside parties such as court. So there's just a lot of people that you have to deal with. And, you may not necessarily have discernment over like what's important, what's priority. And you can kind of get lost in that shuffle. But at the end of the day, if you just remember, like, this is your career, there's a reason why you chose to be a lawyer, right? It can be a different reason for everyone. And just trying to stay focused on that kind of long-term goal. I think it'll help you in the day-to-day like shuffle of, reporting to different people and different styles and managing. And yeah, I think it's important to sort of stay focused on what your long-term goal is.
Staying focused. Thank you for sharing, and we are writing that down. Staying focused, right? Because like you said, there's so many things that come our way. Now transitioning into, you are here, but what got you here? So what is one thing you wish you knew as a junior associate? What is that one thing that now that where you're at, you wish you had known back then? Daily, or you, or Frank, whoever wants to take.
Sure, I can jump in. I think, this isn't too far long before me as a junior associate. I think, one takeaway is to be proactive in your cases and managing your different cases. As a junior associate, you may not think like you have really a role to play. You have maybe a small role in a bigger case, depending on your cases. But just think of it as, how can I win this case? How can I help my client get the best outcome? Thinking that it's your client, right? Taking that ownership and authority, even as a junior associate, I think it'll help you sort of see the bigger picture and not be, engrossed in, doc review or a small research question. But if you have the big picture in mind, I think it'll help sort of move cases along. And even, being proactive to like go up to the partners and say, and suggest, different strategies or different methods that you can use, what's come up in your research, investigation, and just suggesting different things and really being and showing that, you care about the case and the client. I think it'll get you a long way, starting as a junior associate.
Thank you for sharing, Haley. That's important, staying on track of taking ownership, right? It makes a difference. Thank you for sharing. Frank, what can you tell us?
The word is client. For the most part, most of us are going to be in private practice, whether it be if you're in legal aid or at AM 100. Client, client, client. That is, we're all smart cookies. You again, like I said before, you all got here for a reason. Everyone's smart, with some exceptions, but most for the most part, everyone's incredibly brilliant. Your first couple of years, you need to focus on being the best attorney you can be, but never forget in the back of your head, this is a business and is about client relations and about client services and keeping the client abreast of your actions and keeping them happy and taking those phone calls and answering those emails. And it is going to drive you crazy, but it will pay off in spades in the long run because, again, this is a business and that's going to help you with your business development down the road. It's going to be what they remember you for. It's not always the outcome of the case. Sometimes the case out, I always talk about this in law. It's the facts are the facts, the documents are the documents, the evidence, the outcome's the outcome. You tell the client, here's the mess. We're here to clean it up as much as possible. Here are the projected outcomes. Here's what we can do to fix as much as possible. Here's what you're going to pay out. Here's what you're going to do to fix the situation. They're going to remember how you treated them and, never talk down to them. It seems like basics, but you see it all the time. You have people who think they are brilliant. I went to XYZ law school and I'm smarter than you. I'm going to talk down to you. My work is perfect, but they're a paying customer the same way as you buy something at Starbucks, you expect to be treated in a certain way. These are people shelling out gajillions of dollars for your expertise. They still need to be treated right. And this is where I've seen several people in their downfall, is that they just didn't understand client service. And it doesn't matter which part of the industry you're in. And this includes if you're at doing, civil rights work and legal aid or whatever, still your client. And they have to be treated that way. And we all mess up at it at points. And that's kind of the thing to always remember, is the client is front and foremost the only thing you really have to, not the only thing, is the thing you have to worry about most. And that's the thing I'm still working on. And that's the thing I wish I would have known day one.
Thank you, Frank. Valerie, what can you tell us?
There are a couple things, and kind of pivoting off of client service, right? Networking within your firm, right? Your shareholders are your clients. Their shareholders, senior shareholders, are also your clients, even if you don't interact with them. And just networking so people understand like who you are, they know your name, they know your face, they see you in the office. That goes a long way for a lot of shareholders that I've spoken to, because I am present most of the time, even though our team has the advantage of being remote as much as we want. My shareholder comes in on certain days and I'm always there on those days, if not more. And it says something to him. It says, she's dedicated, she wants to be here, she's showing up. So I think being visible while you're networking, and networking with HNBA within your network, it's actually how I got the job at Seyfarth that I'm at now. Because, when all else fails, if you're in a toxic work environment and you have to advocate for yourself, having a network is always going to be very helpful. And this is business, right? So your career is your business and it will be your long-term business. So I think, networking within HNBA, networking within your firm, networking within your industry. A lot of junior attorneys put it on the back burner because they are very, very focused about being the best attorney they can be, about, hitting all the points that they need to do, making sure that their, case management and clients are all happy. But I think the thing that a lot of junior associates miss out on is that networking aspect, because it really opens up so many doors that you didn't even know were there just by networking and saying hi. And people want to help you, especially within the HNBA. Like, we're really familia, and we're really all here to give each other a leg up if we can. If we can give it, we're gonna give it, And so I think networking and time management, making sure the thing is going forward, keeping your time, figuring out a way to keep your time. In immigration, we do flat fee services. So I had never needed to keep my time at the beginning of my career. Coming to Seyfarth, it is a mandatory thing. You are inputting your time and it is very foreign. So it took a little bit, a few months to really understand what that meant and how to do it. But I think when you're able to really manage your time, blocking time for like HNBA, blocking time on my Friday is for HNBA usually, or after hours, and then blocking time for, I want to go lift weights in the morning. I want to walk my dogs. I want to be able to take a walk during lunch. These are things that I have to time block for my own work-life balance. But if I don't block the time, it's not going to work out. And then I'm going to be behind on my deliverables, and then everything else is going to happen. So time management, whatever that looks like to you, however you can make that work, do it.
That's important. Thank you so much for sharing time management. And before I forget, I did not manage time accordingly, talking about time management. And I want to let the participants know that if you guys have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat and we will ask our panelists about any questions that you guys have. So feel free to send any questions in. We have our panelists and they're more than happy to answer questions for us. Thank you for sharing all of that information. What other tips do you have? How do you strike balance? How do you guys find balance? What's time management is one. What else? What any other tip that you have as to, we want to become associates. What is one thing that keeps you guys sane? What's one tip that you're like, this is healthy for me, or this is something that helps me stay connected with my clients? Is there any tips on that?
I mean, I'm going to reiterate the fact that I must make time to work out, because if I don't get any kind of workout, like my whole day is off, because now I rely on it for my energy boost and my serotonin. My dogs are already ready to go walking right after I get back. So I think, again, it's finding what works for you and what is really going to bring you joy and give you something that is going to help you continue throughout your day. That's, I mean, for me at least, that's what I need.
For me, I think it's I guess it's two-part. I mean, I think it's important in terms of time management to always be communicating with whomever you're working with. Just having open communication about, what you're blocking time out for during the day, if it is during the workday. And making them feel comfortable, trusting you that you'll get the work done. And then I think for me personally, like, for Valerie, it's working out. For me, it's my daughter. I have a 19-month-old. And so it's tough to balance the two. But when I work from home on certain days, I try to block out maybe a few minutes, take a break from work, and just like see her and spend time with her. It just gives me the energy to get through the day. So I think it's just, making the affirmative choice to, do other things that you need in your life to keep sane, to keep the energy going, and not just, working all the time, which is obviously easy to do and fall into.
And one more thing is with networking, do something you enjoy. It's your extracurricular on top of your life, on top of your work demands, on top of trying to hit the gym, on top of trying to stay sane. And there's only 24 hours a day, and you have to sleep. And because you don't want to burn out at 45, because we've all seen that. And we've seen horror stories. There's the ongoing joke of like the worst partners to work for. You have to ask, what's the joke? It's like how many ex-wives and how many heart attacks. No, it's true. It's when assessing who do you want to work for, don't be that person. I think a lot of generationally we're much better. At least the millennial generation has really made work life a thing, and we're a much better place now. But in terms of your networking, find the people that are going to add to your life. And there's an old adage, people do business with friends. Work with people you enjoy, that are going to, build your book, that are going to help you impress your bosses and put money in your pocket or develop your business. But also you're going to, because that's a sacrifice. That's time away from a kid. That's time away from your family. That's time away from a hobby. That's time away from just sitting and watching YouTube, which you might really want to do one night, but you just don't have time. So be really selective with your networking, and also with your networking, revisit every 6 months, every year, figure out what is worth your time and what is not. When I first started off, I was trying to do everything, which is okay in the beginning. Try to figure out what works and then triage and realize that some things are not worth your time and your commitments. And people are going to ask you to do all kinds of things. And once you get caught up in these things, sometimes it's hard to say no to people. And you have to say, look, I don't have this Tuesday free every, so often. This isn't helping me. This is a distraction. I'm not getting anything out of this. I'm sorry. I have to say no to this one. I don't have the commitment. And then put your time to the things you care about. And that has helped me immensely, which is why I've really focused on the HNBA, because it's a great place to be.
That
I
is
definitely want to
correct.
echo that, Frank. I mean, literally everything you said is everything that I had been dealing with over this last year.
The power of the word no.
Keyword, no.
Not I'm sorry, I cannot do it. And most
Right,
people
not
will
I'm sorry.
understand. Not I'm sorry, I'm not sorry, actually. I cannot do this. This is not helping me.
Thank you all for sharing. And Yaylee, congrats on the baby. That's amazing.
Thank you.
That incredible advice. You guys are right. I mean, HNBA, we're all here, and as Frank put it into, couldn't have said it better. Choose the people you want to be around with, and this is find the networking, find the place where you feel happy. That's key. One of the things that was brought up right now or during our conversation was our paralegals and our staff. how do you maintain those relationships? Has there been any tips? I mean, Daily, you mentioned it already, but Frank, Valerie, anything, how do you deal with your staff? How do you maintain those lines of communication and appreciation? Because at the end of the day, it's a team effort, right? When we work with our staff. So how do you manage your relationships with the staff, and how critical are they in your everyday life?
Really, you gotta, it's hard to answer. It's very situational. If you're at a small firm, big firm, if you have authority over them, if you assess them, you kind of got kind of a unique question, I think. One is treat everyone with respect. I shouldn't have to say this, but you've seen people treat people like garbage, and that will come back to haunt you. I can't imagine anyone who's on this phone call or this Zoom call would ever do that, and especially people in our organization. But you'd be surprised. Staff talks. Staff can save your life. Staff will catch a mistake. Staff will see you're double booked on an appointment. Staff will notice that, oh, wait, the boss is coming in unexpectedly and give you a heads up. Staff will text you when you went to the gym at noon thinking you could do it and be like, oh, wait, this meeting just got called early. And staff, if you're bad to staff, will be like, wasn't my problem, I was at lunch. And staff that doesn't care about you will let you fall. And staff that loves you will prop you up, knowing that you guys will rise up together. Because if you take care of your staff, they know it's in their best interest. If they're, they're smart. So I'd like to think that I have a great relationship with my staff. I also don't oversee my staff. I have no input in their performance, their raises, etc. So it is kind of nice where I don't have to have that kind of relationship with them. And it's also dependent. If you do have that relationship with them, I can't really speak to that. I don't know if you guys have that kind of relationship, so it's a little different of an equation. But again, basic common sense rules that people forget sometimes. Make sure, and also when you're young, the impressions you leave when your first couple of years, that's how they're going to remember you forever. And people hold grudges, and people do not forget. So if you're rude to Secretary X in your first year and you never dealt with them for 5 years, and somehow they're back in your life, they're going to let you fall if you were bad. And people switch firms and people talk, and there are rumors, and you never know because these industries are small. So yeah, be careful.
Noted. Thank you. Valerie, Yaley.
I'll let Yaelin go first.
Sure. Just piggybacking off of what, Frank was saying. I think staff are staff. They're existing for that role, right? Just as you are an associate, just as a partner is a partner. I don't think you need to see it as like a hierarchy in any way. I think Valentino is saying, it's a team effort, and you just need to be clear in what you ask of them. In your instructions and your guidance, but also treat them with respect. Like they're just there to do their job just as you are. And as long as, the communication is clear, and, they know what you expect of them, etc. I think it's supposed to be a good team effort. I don't think it's, like you asking of them to do things for you. I think it's just treat them as you would a client or a partner. Like they shouldn't be treated any differently. And I think it's just important to, always have clear communication regarding expectations.
So that last line, clear communication regarding expectations, I think that is the thing that I maybe struggled with in the beginning. So immigration is a little different from most forms of law. We are very high volume. We turn out, maybe 50 to 100 cases a day, depending on the size of the client. So our paralegals are very specifically doing roles such as answering emails, because we get hundreds, if not thousands, a day. So they're answering substantive questions. They're also reviewing some case prep that our drafters have done. So it's really like a full service machine that's happening. And right at the head is the senior attorney that's over me, and then the client and the client contacts. So when they're managing up and I'm managing down and everyone's managing, it clear communication was very difficult, especially because in the beginning, I was mostly excited about helping them develop substantive legal knowledge that they didn't have because we had these great drafters in place. Back at my old firm, everything was hand drafted by our paralegals. And so having overseas drafters freed up our paralegals to really gain that substantive knowledge and really be like many attorneys who just couldn't do the attorney things on the immigration side. So we have senior paralegals, and then we have like specialists is what they're called, analysts, specialists, which are more like junior paralegals. It was difficult at first because somebody who was more junior was in a senior role. So I think the difficulty there was actually communicating those clear expectations. And then when they're not meeting it, dealing with those things, even though at the same time, you know, they are the ones making sure that your life is okay. They are the ones making sure that everything is happening for you. So I think, you know, it was a really interesting balance to strike with that clear communication, but still being able to manage them and let them know, like, these are the expectations. This is what's happening. But at the same time, you don't want to be down on someone. You don't want to talk down to them. You don't want to tell them that they did a bad job, or, you know, give them maybe a generic sandwich. This was good, this is bad, this is good, because everybody kind of knows what that is. So I think it was, again, going back to what Frank said, really developing that personal relationship with them and making sure that they understand, you know, these are the roles that we have. And in order for me to do my job, I need you to do your job. I need your help, your support. And at the same time, I want to support you and raise you up. So that was really interesting. And it just happened because we just had reviews. So that's why it was top of mind. But I would also say that having a close personal relationship with them, not close personal, but more being able to converse with them in a personable way. You know, we don't necessarily go out and get drinks or anything, not saying that you couldn't, but I think being able to be comfortable talking to them was what made it go over really well and helped her performance in the end. So instead of her wanting to leave, because that was borderline around the place that she was, which is why the things were happening. But yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, our staff is very important, and this tips will be definitely helpful. We have questions for you. Who wants to take it first? First question is, what was hard when you became an associate?
I just went
Everything.
Everything. Can you narrow it down to something specific, or everything is challenging? But that was there one thing? What was the hardest thing you faced? Let's go there. What was the hardest thing you faced when you started?
I would say just adjusting to the lifestyle of going from academia to work. If you're still in law school, enjoy it. It is easy compared to your first couple of years. It's also different. Like, studying's hard. It's a different kind of challenge. Prepare yourself for putting some things on hold, like big vacations, time with either a loved one or your friends. You're just be prepared in that first year to put in some hours. You're going to be hitting the pavement. You want to be that, if that's what you want, you know, if that's who you want to be. And it's okay if that's not what you want. If you want to go into a 9-to-5 job, there are plenty of them out there. That's what you want to seek, and that's where you are in life, and that works for you financially. Seek that. But if you are gunning for certain opportunities, just prepare ahead of time. Arrange your life with the people in your life to know that this is going to be a hard part, and that hopefully you can get through that hard part, because I've fortunately seen some people not make it through that hard part, or they choose some bad options while getting through that hard part. So that's kind of my blanket advice on that, if that makes any sense. And really just putting in the hours, because you're learning everything at once. Nothing you learned in law school applies. You don't really learn law in law school, right? You're learning hypothetical mishmashes of various different statutes that they put into the model penal code that doesn't exist in any real world. I question law school in its entirety, but really, and then you get thrown into this crazy world that is law practice, and you're just be prepared for just an interruption of your life, and plan accordingly.
Yeah, and I'll just add, as a junior, I think it's important to ask questions and be confident in asking questions. You know, as a junior, I often thought that I had to figure it all out and know all the answers before I went to a partner or senior associate. But that's sort of your golden time to ask the questions, the dumb questions even. Because as you get more senior, the more expected you are to really actually know the answers to the questions. So I think, you know, as a junior associate, don't be afraid to just, you know, ask all the questions that you have. Obviously, be prepared when you ask those questions, right? Do your research and do your investigation, and, you know, have a backup of what you think the answers may be, and suggest those when you bring them up. But I think just don't shy away from asking even the quote unquote dumb questions. And I think, you know, as a junior associate, it's important also to trust your gut instinct. You know, I agree with Frank, law school doesn't prepare you at all for practice, but you know, it does prepare you to sort of how to think, and just the processes of, you know, whether it's issue spotting, right? You see a hypothetical, or you see an issue or a problem, and you try to figure out, like, what are the laws that apply? What do I need to do to resolve the situation? Just the general processes of thinking. And I think when you're faced with real client problems and actual cases, treat it as if, you know, it's a hypothetical, and trust that you know, may know what you need to find, what laws you need to find, what guidance you need to seek, in order to get to the right outcome, or the best suggestion or best strategy. And don't underestimate your own intelligence and your own capabilities. I think that's important too. And, you know, be confident to speak up. Even in a room where you're the most junior person, I think it's important to sort of set that standard early in your career, and, you know, make others known that, because, you know, as a minority, our non-minority counterparts, I think they have, this is a personal observation, but I think they have a better, or they're more comfortable speaking up in those settings, in those rooms. And I think it's important not to shy away from that, even though you may think that you're too junior and you don't know enough. I think it's, you know, the creativity and the energy that comes from being a junior associate is really valuable.
And find a friend, someone about 1 or 2 years ahead of you that you can trust. You know, they will save your life, because you can ask the most stupid questions.
That's also what your senior staff is for too. If you have really dumb questions that you just don't even want to ask an attorney, your paralegals will always have your back.
Well, you trust them.
Exactly. Honestly, just echoing what both of y'all saying, law school does not get us prepared. So I think being ready to throw yourself into practice was the hardest thing, because it is very different from theoretical application. And when you really get into your practice and you start working and you start, you know, delving into the world, I mean, we're really trying to become subject matter experts within the first few years. We want to eat as much law, regulation, you know, treatises, wherever you find your knowledge and that is the most helpful to you. I think being ready to just go full force into that, which, I mean, if you're coming off the bar exam, you're almost a little ready, right? And hopefully the people in your life understand that if you were getting ready for the bar exam, that, you know, your first few years are going to be quite similar to the type of hours you were keeping for studying for the bar. At least that's what mine was. So I think getting ready to throw yourself into complete practice, asking the dumb questions and finding your voice, again, finding your confidence is one of the hardest things to do as a junior, for sure. And it's so funny that, Yali, you mentioned that because as terrible as it might sound, my best friend and I always tell each other to operate with the confidence of a mediocre white male, which is what a lot of people have said in our circles. Because, at the end of the day, they're not second guessing themselves. They speak with confidence and they may not even know what they're talking about. And yet they have the loudest voice in the room with the most confidence. And that's what instills confidence in them, their own confidence. So I think operating on that confidence is a really, really important thing to develop. And, the more you learn, the more you ask, the more you know, the more confidence you'll have. But yeah, that's definitely one of the most important. It's also one of the most important things for passing the bar. So confidence, number one.
Confidence is key. Now, before we're gonna go a little back in. What about summer positions? Did any one of you held a summer position, and how were those different than your actual associate position? Were there any similarities, any differences?
For me, it was very, very different. The way that I was keeping time as a clerk or summer associate was very different. The types of assignments I was working on was very different. A lot more hand-holding as a summer associate as well. There should be. You are a law student. You are not licensed to practice law. So I think it's a very different dichotomy. When you are first starting to practice, they give you a lot more responsibility and they give you a lot more work. So that was my experience.
I was a summer associate at a smaller firm that I started off at after law school. And I would say I agree. It's very different. You're more sort of in the learning, observing phase. And so you get to sit in on a lot of things, depositions, mediations, court appearances, and you just kind of get to observe what attorneys do. And, you're given sort of smaller research writing assignments, but I would say more of the responsibility comes as a first year for sure. It sort of like comes at your face. I know from experience being the senior associate, having worked with summers and first years, the amount of responsibility that I would give to one versus the other is very different. So I think if you are going to be a summer associate, enjoy that summer. There's also a lot of, firm outings that they treat you on. So just enjoy those, be responsible, obviously, but enjoy that. They're spending their time and their money on you to, really grow you and develop you as an associate. So yeah, I think respond appropriately and enjoy that summer before you really have to start practicing.
Mine was very different. I was in a Bronx family aid or Bronx legal aid in the family court. So I was actually appearing before judges, which was kind of crazy. But my supervision was the attorney was in like somewhere in the building, which is how you learn. Yeah. But it was a great experience. So I took a non-traditional path, but I loved it. So if you don't take the OCI path, definitely look into doing something like that. You get some real skills out of it, which I don't regret whatsoever.
Thank you for sharing all different experiences with the summer position. But one key takeaway that I take is always you don't have to follow the same path as everybody. And I think one of the things that I do want to bring up and remind us is that networking, you can always, if you don't do the OCI, you always have HNBA or you're within your network to have access to different paths where you can do what Frank did. It was different, but nonetheless, it was definitely important. It made an impression in his career. Any other questions? Are there, before we jump into anything else, I do have a question for the three of you. What is your favorite part of your day in the life of an associate?
There is still there's this old adage about being a partner, and it's a hot dog reference. Law is a hot dog eating contest. You eat hot dogs, and you just eat more and more hot dogs. And the way you become partners, you win the hot dog eating contest, and all you get is more hot dogs. So before if that's the path you want to go on, enjoy this time before you have to start making even more critical decisions, because once you cross over to partnership, it's just harder. Now you're managing people. So now, you think your job's hard now take your job and starting to actually having to, you're not just managing the clients, you're managing the associates, and you're the one that's laying down the hammer, which is no fun. You don't, as a human being, you don't want to be the person that yells at the associates. It's not an enjoyable thing to do. So take that, enjoy it while it lasts, because you're going to have to either, something we should probably maybe talk about is kind of like the path of where most firms work. It's different for me in a small firm, but most firms are, after a certain amount of years, you either have to go to partnership track, or they kind of put you on a different path, depending on the firm. But enjoy not having those responsibilities, and just focusing on the work and client development, and actually enjoying the law for what it is, before you have even more responsibilities and even more headaches and even more emails and even more late nights and even more stress in your life.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Frank. Haley, Valerie, what's your favorite part of the day? I do have more questions, though.
So maybe I didn't answer the question correctly.
No, you nailed it. It is one of the, I guess, part of it is enjoy your life as an associate. Enjoy the days before you jump into partnership. Solid.
My favorite part of the day is, so my whole day, I mean, it starts at 5 a.m. I get up, I cuddle my dogs, and I spend an hour just with myself, doing whatever I want. Nobody emailing me, nobody asking me questions. That is my favorite part of my day, which is why I wake up so early. I go to the gym, I get back, I'm online by like 8:30. I'll block my time in terms of like 1 to 2 hours for case review, 1 to 2 hours for emails, 1 to 2 hours, miscellaneous, because somebody's going to have a fire, or somebody's stuck at a border, or somebody's, something's happening where I'm going to have to deal with it. So I'll just, block my day out. But the best part of the day is always going to be whatever you do to bring yourself joy. So whatever you do to get through the rest of the day, cuddling your dogs, I have to work out, I have to do something to make sure my energy is right, and I have to take a walk at lunch. So like whatever it is that gets you through the day and brings you some bit of joy, that's the best part.
That's funny, because I was going to say something very similar. I was going to say before the day starts is my favorite part of the day. But mine doesn't start at 5 a.m. Mine starts a little later. But I will say, I think the reason for that is, before your inbox blows up and all the emails come through, I just enjoy that sort of short moment of peace and quiet. For me, it's with my family, with my daughter, before the day starts. And I'll just add, I think, my other favorite part of the day is sort of like late afternoon, like after 3-4 p.m. I think that's when the emails and, all the, communication sort of die down a little bit. I have less meetings, less calls, and it's just kind of the time of the day where I can focus on actual substantive work. So, that's sort of my favorite part of being an attorney. It's not answering emails. It's not, dealing with all of that. It's really just being a lawyer and like really analyzing the facts in the law for your client, and being able to do that within a chunk of time is valuable to me. So I try to, schedule the day around that, but obviously there are fire drills and that never happens according to schedule. But I would say late afternoon lull, I guess, when things are more quiet.
Thank you for sharing that, sharing your day. Now, do you have any advice for a 2L who's looking for a summer 2024 internship?
come to the corporate council in Seattle, network, do what you can do to get your job. Like literally, I went to one corporate council conference and I told somebody that, I had just met and bonded with, that I really was unhappy with my job because it just was like pulling teeth to get them to send me to this conference. And she was at Sci-Fi. And they came in droves. They had their, associates, they had law clerks that were clerking for the summer. They brought everybody. And I was like, I want that. I'm not happy. I want that. And it was so quick. She got my resume. She put it up. Within a few weeks, I had an interview. I was interviewing with other firms too, but I will highly, highly emphasize, use your HNBA network. Volunteer as a law student volunteer. If you can get into the moot court, get into the moot court. If you can just come. Like whatever you can do to get your feet into HNBA, to get into, we have a national mentorship program. We can pair you up with a mentor, depending on your region. You'll have like a whole squad of people to talk to, but I would say networking is the #1 way. If you're looking this summer and it's, February, that would be the quickest way to make sure that you got a good job this summer.
Thank you, Valerie. Frank, do you have any advice?
Yeah, use us and go through your regional president. That means go through Valerie to get to Jimmy. And I used to be I used to have Jimmy's job, so I know how that works. Also, it's been a while since I looked for.
I have another
it sounds
question
cheesy
for you. Okay.
Sorry. Just sounds cheesy, but work with your school. You pay them a lot of money, or you're going to pay them a lot of money someday. And a lot of people blow off their career counselors, and they're paid to do this for you. They owe you this. Harass them if you have to, but work with them. They have really good insight. Make those appointments. A lot of people did not take advantage of that. This is what they're there for. They have services for this. So if you're stuck, start there. These are career professionals who are paid, that you pay them with your tuition dollars that you're either loaning or paying off now to help you get a job, or at least put you in the right path. So if not just for the networking, add that to the part of your mission or part of your plan. So that's my advice. Sorry, you were saying?
No, thank you. That's solid advice. Taking off your advice from there, another question that came up was, do you have any advice on getting a position at a big law firm if you weren't their summer associate?
I think generally it's people who do government or some kind of public service, like clerking, DA's office, some of the more prestigious government jobs, and then they lateral in, because any job where you're getting litigation experience. So if you're at the DA's office, you're spending 3 years in a court. That's invaluable experience. So, you may be not making the best money coming out, but you're getting marketable, desirable skills. So if you're able to, if that's going to work for you financially, also public service, remember, you get a whole bunch of benefits with that in terms of loan forgiveness. There's the 10-year plan. If you end up sticking with public service, start looking at the government jobs, because you're going to get legitimate skills that are going to be desirable. Then you can lateral. And a lot of employers are actually looking not to train, but they want someone, their boots on the ground, ready to start doing trial practice. So especially some of your mid-sized firms, maybe not your top. I don't really know top firm. Don't ask me about those. But a lot of like good litigation firms are just looking to. We're in a really interesting place employment-wise. I'm seeing so many postings from firms are just looking for people with trial experience right now. And so you think there are different paths to get there. And it's, hone your skills and find a job that will allow you to develop skills. Because that's free training for those employers that don't have to spend years paying you full salary. Let the government train you and pay you. And then you walk out with some really great offers.
I can actually speak from personal experience. I didn't start off at Kasowitz. I started at a mid-sized firm because I did go through OCI and it wasn't successful for me. But I will say, you know, like Frank was saying, get the experience that you can early on, because that is really valued when you lateral. The lateral market is still hot, and I'm sure it will continue to be hot. And I think it's also valuable to have like a specialty area, like a niche, like I do employment law. Employment I know is especially marketable, but I think even in other areas of law, if you sort of have more of a specialty, obviously as a junior, you're not necessarily specialized, but it'll help them being a general commercial litigator, because you know a majority of attorneys are in that role. But yeah, I think it's definitely possible. Don't stop looking. Just because you didn't make it through OCI doesn't mean you can't land in big law. I'm a testament of that. And so yeah, be confident, trust that, you know, you will get there if that's your goal. But also even non-big law, you're still practicing as an attorney, and it's not the end all and be all. So yeah, stay confident and true to who you are.
And
So
also
if you
sometimes
have,
it's, oh, sorry.
oh no, go for it, Frank.
There's also, sometimes it wasn't meant to be. And as you get older, you know, sometimes things work out and it's okay. And you readjust and you turn out just fine. So what you want at 28 is not who you want to be at 41, is not who you want to be at 65. So don't stress out.
So I actually was doing employment litigation when I was in law school. I interned with a federal judge, and I thought my path to big law could only come through judicial clerkship at the time. Federal judicial clerkships, highly desirable, obviously. Maybe not so obviously to a lot of people who are first gen, and if your law school isn't talking about it, you don't really know unless you know. But for me, it was actually kind of backdooring into big law through business immigration. And I left litigation behind, and I have never loved my life more. I will also say that as an immigration associate at a full service firm like Seyfarth or even Ogletree Deakins, which was an employment firm, you know, it's a little bit of a redheaded stepchild. We're not paid quite as much as litigation associates, but we are still paid big law money, and we are still at a big law firm, and they still throw money at the things that I want to do with HNBA. So I would say if you are questioning whether or not litigation is for you, transactional work, and specifically in business immigration, we are toe to toe, neck and neck with the corporations. We are advising them on their compliance strategies. We are helping them retain global talent. We are doing I-9 verification and compliance. You know, we can develop different business acumen skills depending on the type of visas that you're working on. If you haven't given it a thought, it is recession-proof industry. We carried the entire firm of Ogletree Deakins while COVID was happening because nobody could litigate. And so I will say, like, if you're not finding the traditional path to big law, consider corporate immigration. Just consider it. It is quite easily the most fun way to get into big law in the back door.
Thank you all for sharing the advice. So the options are endless. We are very thankful for your time, panelists and participants. But before we go, there's one more question, and I believe this is they thank you for your time, and they just found out about the volunteering opportunity at CCC, the HNBA Corporate Council. I believe it's a little late for volunteering for the Corporate Council conference this March, but don't forget that there is also volunteering opportunities for our annual convention, and that happens in September. So be in the lookout for volunteering opportunities. They will be up soon. So keep an eye on the HNBA. Sign up to be an HNBA member, and you can get more updates. I know that the law student division, if you are a law student, they have a hood board. Check the website, it's there. But opportunities for volunteering, internships, and other stuff are there. So for those questions that came up and we were not able to answer, check that place. There's opportunities to volunteer with HNBA. Any last words, Frank, Yaylee, and Valerie? We're very thankful for your advice, for sharing your time with us. And I cannot forget to thank Grisel for and Carla for making sure that this panel took place. So thank you all for your time. And any last words from our panelists?
You're gonna be fine. Don't worry about it.
It will
You are
work
literally
out.
fine. Yeah,
will work
always gonna work out. You're always gonna be fine. If you got this far, you can do it. Please reach out, add me on LinkedIn, shoot me an email, find me at the conference, whenever, wherever. If you want to get involved with HNBA, if you want to ask more questions, just reach out to me. We'll set something up. We're here as a resource. So
Thank you all. Take care. And any questions, feel free to connect.
Thank you.
See y'all in
Take care.
Seattle.
See you in Seattle. Bye.